"You're not senior enough for a bonus." 5 words. That's all it took. 5 words from Kendrick standing there in his wrinkled button-down, the same one he'd worn to 3 meetings this week, looking at me like I'd asked for something unreasonable. Like I'd demanded the world when all I wanted was my fair share of what I'd earned. The $50 million deal I'd just closed sat between us, invisible but massive, and he acted like it didn't exist. Like the last 11 months of my life didn't matter. I'd landed the biggest contract in the company's history that morning. By afternoon, I wasn't even worth a thank you. "The bonus structure rewards leadership, not execution," he continued, using that tone people use when they're explaining something they think you're too simple to understand. "You did great work, really, but these decisions happen at levels above both of us." The break room behind him buzzed with celebration. People who'd never spoken to the client, who didn't know the first thing about what they actually needed, laughing and toasting with cheap champagne someone grabbed from the storage area. They were celebrating my work, and I wasn't invited to share in any of it. I stood there, and something inside me went quiet. Not angry, not sad, just clear. Before I tell you what I did next, thank you for being here and listening to this. I need to share this with someone who'll understand, because what happened changed everything about how I see my worth. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. It helps me know I'm not alone in this. My name is Rowan, 28 years old, which apparently made me too young to matter despite being old enough to carry the weight of deals that could make or break quarterly earnings. I'd worked at this technology consulting firm for 3 years. 3 years of being the person who arrived first and left last. 3 years of watching less capable people get promoted because they were better at talking than doing. I wasn't born ambitious. I was born practical. My mom raised me and my 2 younger brothers after Dad left when I was 9. She worked double shifts at a nursing facility, came home exhausted, still made sure we ate real food, and did our homework. She taught me that hard work meant something, that if you were good at what you did, people would recognize it, that competence mattered more than performance. She was wrong, but I didn't know that yet. I studied systems engineering because I liked solving problems nobody else could figure out, not the flashy kind of problems, the boring, complicated, technical ones that made businesses run or fail. The kind where you had to really listen to understand what someone needed, not just sell them what you already had. The client was a manufacturing operation spread across 11 states. They'd approached us because their logistics were drowning them, products sitting in warehouses while other facilities ran short, delivery trucks going out half empty while orders stacked up. They'd tried 2 other consulting firms before us. Both had given them generic solutions that didn't work because neither had bothered to understand what made their operation different. I got assigned to the preliminary research. That meant I was supposed to spend 2 weeks learning their basics, then hand off my notes to Kendrick for the actual client relationship. But when I called their operations director, a guy named Hollis, he started explaining their problems, and I realized nobody else in our firm would get it. The technical complexity, the human element, the fact that their issue wasn't really about logistics at all, it was about how information moved between people who didn't trust each other. So I didn't hand it off. I kept the calls going. I told Kendrick I was still in research phase. Week after week, I'd spend my evenings talking to Hollis and his team, learning how their facilities actually worked, where the real breakdowns happened. Not what they said in meetings, but what actually went wrong every single day. Hollis would call me at 8 at night and say, "I know it's late, but something happened today that perfectly shows what I've been trying to explain." And I'd listen for an hour while he walked me through it. I filled 7 notebooks with details nobody else cared about. Which supervisors had worked together before? Which facilities had old rivalries? How the weather patterns in different regions affected their shipping schedules in ways their software didn't account for. I built something custom for them, not from our existing services. Something new, designed specifically for their specific mess. A framework that would actually fix what was broken because it was based on understanding what was really happening, not what the management reports claimed. 4 months in, Kendrick started sitting in on calls. He'd show up, listen quietly, nod at appropriate moments. When Hollis would explain something technical, Kendrick would glance at me, and I'd translate it into simpler terms for him afterward. He never admitted he didn't understand. He'd just say things like, "Good context, thanks for clarifying." At month 6, Kendrick started mentioning the project in team meetings, started using the word "we" when he talked about progress. started being the one who sent the status updates to senior management, with his name at the top and mine buried in the notes. I told myself it was fine. That's how these things worked. He was the team lead. When the deal closed, we'd all benefit. That's what being part of a team meant. Month 8, Hollis asked me directly, "Who's actually going to implement this? You or the other guy who shows up sometimes?" "We work as a team," I said, because that's what I was supposed to say. "Right, but you're the one who built it. You're the one who knows how it works. Kendrick has full visibility into everything." I lied, because here's what I hadn't admitted to anyone, not even to myself. I'd never documented the complete solution. I had pieces in our shared files, the basics, the surface level, but the actual framework, the custom solution that made this whole thing possible, that lived in my notebooks and in my head and in the trust I'd built with Hollis and his team. I hadn't kept it secret on purpose. I just kept thinking I'd write it up properly later, after this next call, after this next modification, after I'd refined it one more time. Month 11. We had the final presentation. Kendrick led it. He'd practiced his talking points with me the night before, asking me what to say when they asked about specific implementation challenges. I fed him the answers. He delivered them smoothly. When Hollis asked technical questions, Kendrick would pause, look thoughtful, and say, "Let me bring in my technical specialist for that detail." And I'd explain while Kendrick nodded like he was supervising my accuracy. They signed $50 million over 3 years, the biggest deal our firm had ever closed. Kendrick went straight into the senior management meeting, alone. I went back to my workstation and waited for someone to acknowledge what I'd done. An email, a message, something. Instead, I heard the celebration starting in the break room. People congratulating Kendrick. Someone asking about the bonus pool. Kendrick's voice, louder than usual, saying this would be a great year for the leadership team. That's when he came over. While I was sitting there, surrounded by the notebooks that held 11 months of work nobody else could reproduce. "You're not senior enough for a bonus." I looked up at him, at this man who couldn't explain the client's basic requirements without my coaching, who'd taken credit for every breakthrough I'd achieved, who was about to get rewarded for my understanding, my relationship, my solution. The bonus structure rewards leadership, not execution. I watched him walk away, watched him return to the celebration, watched everyone else treat him like he'd accomplished something remarkable. And I realized my mother had taught me wrong. Competence didn't matter if you couldn't prove it. Hard work meant nothing if someone else's name was on it. Being good at what you did only mattered if the right people were watching. I opened my calendar. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., the client's technical team was scheduled to arrive for the kickoff meeting, the meeting where implementation would begin, the meeting where Kendrick would need to explain, in technical detail, how the custom solution worked, the solution he'd never actually understood, because he'd never needed to, because I'd always been there to translate, to clarify, to make him look capable. I pulled out my phone and looked at Hollis's number. We'd been talking almost every day for 11 months. He trusted me, not the company, me. My bag was already packed before I knew I'd decided. Personal items, the notebooks, my credentials and certifications, 20 minutes of quiet movement while the celebration continued down the hall. Then I opened a new message to Hollis. "Tomorrow's meeting needs to be rescheduled. I'm no longer with the company. We should talk about your implementation." I hit send before I could reconsider, before I could talk myself into being reasonable, before I could let fear convince me I was making a catastrophic error. His response came through while I was walking to my vehicle. "What? You're the only reason we signed. Does your company know you're leaving?" I typed back with shaking hands, sitting in the driver's seat, watching the building where I'd spent 3 years believing effort mattered. "They'll know tomorrow." I drove home in complete silence. No music, no podcasts, just the sound of traffic and my own breathing. My apartment felt different when I walked in, smaller somehow, or maybe I felt bigger. I couldn't tell which. I powered off my phone, not because I was scared of what would come through, but because I needed one night of quiet before everything exploded. One night to be certain about what I'd just set in motion. Sleep didn't come. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios. What Kendrick would say when he realized, what senior management would do, whether I just destroyed my entire career over pride, whether my mom would understand or think I'd thrown away stability for nothing. At 6 a.m., I turned my phone back on. 47 messages from Kendrick. 16 from his boss, 6 from senior management, 12 calls I'd ignored. The notifications kept coming as I watched, new ones piling on top of old ones. I didn't open any of them. I made coffee instead, sat by the window, waited. At 6:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. This is Sterling. I'm the CEO. We need you to come in immediately. Sterling. The man 3 levels above my pay grade. The man I'd seen exactly twice in 3 years, both times from a distance during company-wide presentations. His voice sounded different than I'd expected. Rougher. Tired. I don't work there anymore, I said. Your client contact called me personally at 6 this morning. He's threatening to terminate a $50 million contract because you're gone. So let's skip the part where you pretend you don't know what's happening, and you tell me what you want. I don't want anything. Everyone wants something. Name it. Salary increase, a title, team lead position, the full bonus Kendrick was getting. The full bonus Kendrick was getting, not the bonus I'd earned. The bonus he was getting for my work. Even now, even with everything falling apart, Sterling was framing it as generosity, as him giving me something of Kendrick's, not returning something that was mine. I want nothing from you, I said. Then what is this? Revenge? You're going to tank a major deal because your feelings got hurt? My feelings didn't get hurt. My value got ignored. There's a difference. Look, I understand you're upset about the bonus situation, but you're too young to understand how these structures work. There are layers of approval, hierarchies that determine. I'm too young? Yesterday, I was old enough to build the entire solution, old enough to manage the client relationship, old enough to carry a $50 million deal. But today, I'm too young to understand business structures. Silence on his end. Then, what did you tell the client? The truth, that I'm no longer with the company, that they should talk to me about their implementation. You can't just steal our client. I'm not stealing anything. I'm telling them that the person who designed their solution isn't available anymore. What they do with that information is their choice. You signed a non-compete. I signed an agreement not to work for direct competitors for 18 months. I didn't sign away my right to exist. If a client chooses to hire me independently for work I created, that's not competition. That's consequence. Another pause. Longer this time. I could hear him breathing, could imagine him in his office, calculating costs and damages and options. Come in. Let's negotiate this like adults. We're done negotiating. You already told me what I'm worth to you. I believe you. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. I'd just hung up on a CEO. I'd just walked away from any possibility of going back. I'd just burned every bridge so thoroughly there was nothing left but ash. It felt amazing. Hollis called 20 minutes later. Tell me what's really happening, he said. No greeting, no small talk. I spent 11 months building something for you. I spent 11 months earning your trust. Yesterday, when the contract was signed, I was told I wasn't senior enough to share in the reward. So I left. And the solution you built, the framework we bought, it exists in my notebooks and my understanding, not in their files. They have pieces, basic outlines, but the actual framework, the thing that makes it work for your specific situation, that's mine. Can they implement it without you? No. Can you implement it without them? Yes, he laughed. Actually laughed. You're saying we just paid $50 million for a service that depends entirely on someone they decided wasn't valuable enough to compensate? That's exactly what I'm saying. Hold on. I heard muffled conversation, other voices in the background. Then Hollis came back. I'm here with my executive team. We're on speaker. You've got 5 minutes to tell us what you want. What did I want? I hadn't thought past leaving. Hadn't planned beyond making them understand they'd made a mistake. But now, with Hollis and his team waiting, I had to articulate something concrete. I want to implement the solution I designed as an independent advisor, not as an employee of the firm you signed with. I want to be the person who fixes your problem, and I want to be compensated for the expertise I'm bringing. What happens to our existing contract? That's between you and them. I'm offering something separate. My knowledge, my relationship with your team, the 11 months of understanding I built that nobody else has. More muffled conversation, then a new voice. Older, more authoritative. This is Gannon. I run the operation. If we hire you directly, can you guarantee the implementation will work? I can guarantee I'll do exactly what I've been doing for 11 months, Listen to your actual problems. Build solutions that fit your actual needs. Stay on calls until we get it right. I can't guarantee that through anyone else, because nobody else knows what I know. What's your fee? I hadn't thought about that either. I had no idea what independent advisors charged for this kind of work, but I knew what the bonus pool had been. Kendrick had mentioned it once, casually, like the amount was so far beyond my reach, it didn't matter if I knew. 200,000 for the complete implementation, I said, picking a number that felt both impossible and fair. Done. We'll have our legal team draw up the contract today. Can you start Monday? I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, not quite believing what I'd just heard. 200,000, more than I made in 2 years at the firm, more than the entire bonus pool would have been, for doing the same work I'd already been doing, except this time being recognized for it. I can start Monday, I managed. Good. And for the record, your old company is about to hear from us. We're terminating the contract. If they couldn't see your value, they don't deserve our business. The call ended. I sat in my apartment, morning light coming through the window, and I started to laugh, not happy laughter. The kind of laughter that comes when reality is so absurd you can't process it any other way. My phone rang again. Sterling. What did you say to them? He demanded. No pretense of politeness this time. I told them the truth. They're canceling the contract. Do you understand what you've done? You've cost this company $50 million. You've destroyed relationships. I haven't destroyed anything. You destroyed it when you decided I wasn't senior enough to matter. I'm just showing you what that decision actually costs. You can't work with them. The non-compete. I already spoke to an employment attorney last week, right after Kendrick told me about the bonus structure. The non-compete doesn't cover independent advisory work for clients I brought to you, especially when the work is based on intellectual property I developed that was never properly documented in your systems. I hadn't actually talked to an attorney. That was a lie I told in the moment, smooth and confident, because I understood something about men like Sterling. They believed you could outmaneuver them if you sounded certain enough. But it worked. He went quiet. What do you want? He asked again, but this time his voice was different. Defeated. I already have what I want. A client who values me. A fee that reflects my contribution. Proof that my work means something. Kendrick said you were reliable. A team player. He said you'd never do something like this. Kendrick was right. The person he's describing would never have done this. But that person stopped existing yesterday afternoon when she realized being reliable just meant being exploitable. I hung up again. The messages kept coming all day. From Kendrick, increasingly desperate. From his boss, angry and then conciliatory. From HR, requesting an exit interview. From former colleagues, some supportive, most confused about what had happened. I responded to none of them. Instead, I opened my notebooks, 7 of them, filled with 11 months of details. I started organizing the information, preparing for Monday, creating proper documentation this time. Not for the firm, but for myself and for Hollis. My mom called that evening. She'd somehow heard something was happening, though I hadn't told her yet. Your brother saw people from your work posting things online. Something about a deal falling through. Are you okay? I told her everything. The deal, the bonus, the decision to leave, the new contract with Hollis, all of it. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Are you sure you did the right thing? She finally asked. I don't know, but I know I couldn't keep being the person who accepted less than I was worth. Your grandmother used to say something. They'll take everything you give them and then blame you for having nothing left. I never understood what she meant until now. Did she ever stand up for herself? No. She gave everything until there was nothing. That's why I wanted different for you. I thought working hard would be enough, but maybe I taught you wrong. You taught me my value. It just took me a while to believe it. Over the weekend, the messages evolved. Threats about legal action that went nowhere because they had no grounds. Offers to negotiate that came too late to matter. Attempts to convince me I'd made a catastrophic career mistake that would follow me forever. But nothing from the person I'd actually wanted to hear from. Nothing from Kendrick himself, beyond those first desperate messages asking what I'd done. Monday morning, I drove to Hollis's facility, a manufacturing complex 2 hours outside the city, sprawling and loud and chaotic. He met me at the entrance, smiled genuinely, shook my hand like I was someone important. Welcome to the team, he said. Let me show you your workspace. He led me through the facility, introducing me to people I'd only known as voices on phone calls. They knew who I was. They'd been on those late-night calls too, explaining their problems, trusting me to listen. This is Rowan, Hollis told them. She's the person who actually built what we need. She's going to make this work. My workspace was a small area in their operations planning section. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, and everyone there knew exactly what I'd contributed. That afternoon, Sterling called one final time. Kendrick has been reassigned, he said without preamble. We're restructuring our bonus system. We're implementing new policies about individual recognition. If you come back, we'll match whatever they're paying you, plus the original bonus, plus a promotion. No, think about what you're giving up. Career trajectory, stability, benefits. I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing something better. I'm choosing to work with people who saw my value before they had no other option. This is a mistake. You'll regret this. Maybe, but it'll be my mistake, my choice, and that matters more than your approval. I hung up for the last time. The first week at Hollis's facility taught me something I hadn't expected. Freedom has a weight to it, not a burden, but a presence. Every decision I made was mine. Every solution I proposed, I owned completely. When something worked, it was because of me. When something needed adjustment, I fixed it without asking permission or explaining myself to people who didn't understand the work. But freedom also meant isolation. At the firm, I'd been surrounded by people. Even if they didn't value me properly, they were there. Morning coffee runs, lunch conversations, the ambient noise of being part of something larger. Here, I was the outside expert. People were respectful, professional, grateful, but I wasn't one of them. I was the person they'd hired to fix their unfixable problem. 3 weeks in, the implementation was progressing exactly as I'd planned. Hollis's team trusted me completely. They'd show me problems without sugarcoating them, let me into meetings where they discussed sensitive operational issues, gave me access to information most consultants never saw. But back in the city, things were unraveling in ways I hadn't anticipated. My former colleagues started reaching out, not the ones who'd celebrated while I was excluded, the others, the ones who'd been in my position, doing the real work while someone else collected the credit. First was Tabitha, a data analyst who'd been there 5 years. She called me on a Tuesday evening. I need to know if what they're saying about you is true, she said. What are they saying? That you sabotaged the deal intentionally, that you stole proprietary information, that you're suing the company. Everyone's got a different story, but they all make you sound either crazy or criminal. What do you think? I think Kendrick couldn't answer basic questions in a meeting yesterday and had to reschedule because he didn't know the material. I think the project he's on now is failing because he keeps asking other people to do the thinking for him. I think you probably did exactly what I wish I was brave enough to do. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped letting someone else take credit for my work. They're making an example of you. Management keeps bringing you up in meetings. Cautionary tale about loyalty and professionalism. But the people actually doing the work, we all know what really happened. Then why are you still there? Because I have 3 kids and a mortgage. Because starting over terrifies me. Because I don't have what you have. What do I have? Proof that you're worth something without them. The call stayed with me. Tabitha wasn't angry at me. She was angry at herself for not having the courage to leave. And management knew that. They were using my story to keep people like her afraid. Week 5. I got a message from someone I didn't know. Younger guy named Foster, who'd started at the firm 2 months before I left. He wanted to meet for coffee. I almost said no. I was busy with implementation, didn't need the distraction, but something about his message felt genuine, so I agreed. He showed up looking exhausted, the kind of tired that comes from working too hard for people who don't notice. They hired me to replace you, he said, before I could even sit down. They didn't tell me that directly, but it's obvious. I've got your old workload, your old projects, and Kendrick keeps comparing everything I do to what you used to deliver. That sounds difficult. It's impossible, because I'm good at this work, but I'm not you. I don't have your relationships or your instincts or your 11 months of context. And instead of helping me build my own approach, Kendrick just keeps asking why I can't do things the way you did them. So why are you telling me this? Because I'm going to quit, probably next month. And I wanted you to know that what you did mattered, not just for you, but for people like me who are watching and learning that we don't have to accept being used. He left before his coffee arrived, just needed to say what he needed to say. 2 days later, Foster sent me his information, his background, his skills, his approach to problem solving. He didn't ask for anything, just shared it in case I ever needed someone who understood the work. I forwarded it to Hollis with a note. If you're serious about expanding the implementation, this person is worth considering. Hollis hired him within a week. Foster gave his notice at the firm, cited better opportunities, walked away clean. That's when things started getting complicated. Kendrick showed up at Hollis's facility unannounced on a Thursday morning. Security called me before letting him in. There's someone here asking for you. Says he's from your previous employer. Should we send him away? My first instinct was yes, but curiosity won out. I wanted to see what desperation looked like on him. They brought him to a meeting room. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. Weight loss, maybe, or just the visible stress of everything collapsing. His shirt was actually clean this time, which somehow made him look more pathetic, like he was trying to seem professional while his whole world fell apart. Thank you for seeing me, he started. I didn't do it for you. I did it because I wanted to watch you ask for something you don't deserve. He flinched, actually flinched. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. The way the bonus situation was handled, that was wrong. I've told management that multiple times since you left. You told them after it cost them $50 million. Very brave of you. I didn't make the decision about the bonus structure. That came from above me. I advocated for you, but I was overruled. You advocated for me? Is that what you call taking credit for my work? Is that what you call walking into senior management meetings alone? Is that what you call celebrating while I sat at my workstation realizing I'd been erased? I was trying to protect you. If senior management knew how much of the strategy came from someone at your level, they would have questioned my leadership. I was creating space for you to develop without pressure. The audacity of it took my breath away. He'd rewritten history so completely in his own mind that he actually believed his own revision. He genuinely thought he'd been helping me by stealing credit. Why are you here, Kendrick? The firm is struggling. 3 more people quit after Foster left. Projects are failing because the people who understood them are gone. Clients are asking questions about our capabilities. Management is panicking. And this is my problem because you could come back, not to your old position, obviously, as a senior strategist, real authority, real recognition. You'd report directly to Sterling, not to me. I'd actually report to you on some projects. You're offering me your job. I'm offering you what you should have had from the beginning, what you earned. Please, the firm needs you. I watched him sit there, diminished and desperate, offering me everything I'd wanted 6 weeks ago. The recognition, the title, the proof that I was valuable. All of it, delivered too late to matter. No, just think about it. Don't decide right now. Take a few days and I don't need a few days. I don't need a few minutes. The answer is no, and it will always be no, because you taught me something important. You taught me that people who don't value you when it's easy will only value you when they have no choice. And that's not value. That's panic. You're making a mistake. You're letting anger destroy your career. My career is fine. Better than fine. I'm doing the same work I was doing for you, except now I'm respected for it. The only career being destroyed is yours. And you did that yourself when you decided execution didn't matter as much as leadership. He stood up, tried one more approach. What about the people still there? People like Tabitha who can't just leave? You're hurting them by refusing to help stabilize things. I'm helping them by showing them what's possible. Tabitha called me 3 weeks ago. She's not angry at me for leaving. She's angry at herself for staying. And maybe watching everything fall apart will give her the push she needs to choose herself. So that's it? You're just gonna let the whole place collapse? I'm not letting anything happen. I left. What happens next is consequence, not revenge. There's a difference. Kendrick left without another word. I watched him walk back through the facility, past people who were busy solving the problems I'd committed to fixing. People who valued the work enough to respect the person doing it. Hollis found me 20 minutes later. Security told me we had an interesting visitor. Everything okay? Everything's fine. Just someone trying to undo something that's already done. They're really falling apart without you? They're falling apart because their whole system was built on undervaluing the people who did the actual work. I'm just the first person who made them see the cost of that. Good. Let them figure it out the hard way. Month 3 of the implementation, Hollis's logistics problems were 60% solved. The framework was working exactly as I'd designed it. Facilities that hadn't communicated in years were coordinating smoothly. Inventory that used to sit stagnant was moving efficiently. Delivery trucks were running full instead of half empty. Hollis's boss, Gannon, called me into his workspace one morning. "We need to talk about expansion," he said. "What you built for us, it's not just solving our problems, it's changing how we think about operations. We want to implement it across our entire network. Double the scope. Are you interested?" What would that look like? Another year contract, triple your current fee, and we'd want you to build a team. Bring in people you trust to help scale this. Triple the fee. For doing work I loved with people who appreciated it. Building a team on my terms, with people I chose. I'm interested. There's one complication. We're going public next year. This implementation is going to be part of our growth story. The efficiency improvements you've created, they're going to be in our financial reports. Your name is going to be attached to this very publicly. Why is that a complication? Because your old firm is going to see it. They're going to see exactly how much value you created and how much they lost. They're going to see you succeeding without them. Some people might find that threatening. Let them be threatened. I'm done making myself smaller so other people feel comfortable. Gannon smiled. That's exactly the answer I was hoping for. The expanded contract was finalized within 2 weeks. I hired Foster immediately, reached out to Tabitha and offered her a position that paid 40% more than she was making. She accepted same day, gave notice, walked away from 5 years of being undervalued. By month 4, we weren't just a small advisory project anymore. We were a team, a real team, where everyone's contribution mattered and everyone was compensated fairly for what they brought. And that's when Sterling made his final mistake. He filed a lawsuit, claimed I'd violated my non-compete agreement, claimed I'd stolen proprietary information, claimed I'd interfered with existing client relationships, all of it baseless, but expensive to fight. He was betting I couldn't afford a legal battle, betting I'd settle rather than risk everything I'd built. He bet wrong. The attorney I contacted was someone Gannon recommended, specialized in employment and intellectual property disputes. She reviewed everything within 48 hours. "They have no case," she said. "Your non-compete doesn't cover independent advisory work. The solution you created was never properly documented as company property, and the client chose to terminate their contract before hiring you, which means you didn't interfere with anything. So we fight it? We do better than fight it. We countersue for defamation and unpaid compensation. We make this so expensive and so public that every talented person in the industry knows exactly how your former employer treats the people who create their value. Won't that destroy them? Probably. Is that a problem?" I thought about Kendrick, sitting in that meeting room, offering me his job because everything was falling apart. I thought about Sterling, calling me too young to understand business while trying to steal credit for my work. I thought about 3 years of watching less capable people get promoted while I carried the weight. "No," I said, "that's not a problem. Thank you so much for sticking with this story. It means everything to know you're here, listening to how this unfolds. If this is resonating with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens next is something I never saw coming. Drop a comment below and let me know if you've ever had to walk away from something that didn't value you. Let's support each other through this."